All right, hello wine-drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And you know me, I'm a busy guy. I'm out drinking all over town. And this is an event that I was really looking forward to because I got to meet one of the principals of this winery, John Hilliard, at the American Fine Wine Competition earlier this year. And he had the best wine there, man. There were 600 wines. This was the best. This was the first one that I tasted. And it was great to meet his wife, Christine, and their little poodle. They travel with their dog. And man, I got a dog. I love my dog, too. Theirs is small enough to fit into a handbag. So no one even knew it was there. But a cute little black poodle. And we had a great dinner in the back room at Cafe Maxx. Just 14 people, which is my favorite size event. You know, some of the smaller events are the best ones for you, our wine-drinking people, to come to. Because John brought extra wine, man. He brought, like, every vintage of wine he's ever produced. And he started with a 2008 vintage. That's the wine I had out of Magnum at the show and was just blown away by. So I proceeded to order everything that I could from him, which, of course, means large-format bottles. We will soon have 3 liters of his first vintage, the '08, which is just drinking fantastically. Should go another 5 or 10 years easily. This is a guy, well, he and his wife were from Texas. And, well, those of you who've been to Texas know that you want to get the hell out of there as soon as you possibly can. No, but they were in the marine business and obviously made quite a bit of money because they could afford to buy 100 acres in the Santa Rita Hills. And it just so happens this is the coolest part of the Santa Rita Hills appellation. Some of their neighbors you might have heard of, Melville, Clopepe, Sea Smoke. And, well, these guys bought the property to raise horses. He and his wife into horses. And, well, they're into growing things also. And really self-taught winemakers, these guys. Well, they did have the help of Paul Lotto. When he saw their vineyard and saw what they were doing, he pulled up in his car and he says, man, you are going to hire me as a winemaker, and I am going to show you how to make wine from this vineyard. And they said, well, who the hell is this guy, this kooky guy, Paul Lotto? And then they, of course, looked into his credentials and found that he had many 95-plus scoring wines in the Wine Advocate, and they said, well, maybe we should take this guy seriously. And, you know, even though Paul helps them, these guys are both very involved in the winemaking process. I love the stories here, and I love the story about the rosé. John, we're going to have to change this one a little bit. And, you know, they said we used to press some of the juice off, and, you know, it's fermented, so it's got some alcohol in it. They let it run down the drain. And, you know, that alcohol, unfortunately, kills bacteria and other little bugs in there. And the authorities came to them and said, man, you cannot do this anymore. So they decided to take that juice and make a rosé. So still stuff they used to throw away. And they let the interns make this wine. But I'll tell you what, man, it was pretty damn good. And, you know, I don't want to say this is the stuff they used to throw away because they do probably process it a little differently now. And the interns, I'm sure they keep a pretty close eye on them. This was just fantastic with the fresh Florida lump crab cups with the mango. Just went off with the rosé, some lovely strawberry and cherry fruit here. Bone dry, of course, on the finish, some pretty floral notes. A delicious bottle of rosé for $22. Perfect for springtime or summertime, which is all year round in South Florida. All right, and then we went to the Chardonnay, which is what Christine's responsibility is, and she loves big Burgundian Chardonnays. And this wine, the Santa Rita Hills, has this specific minerality that is really unique. And, you know, you get it in this wine, but also it's a very rich style of Chardonnay. You also get some lovely toasty vanilla, creme brulee-like notes, and some lovely, gorgeous, rich fruit in this wine. Also, lemon drop candy, really creamy on your tongue, and impeccably balanced, even though it's rich. It's got wonderful freshness. This one was fantastic with the herb-roasted hog snapper with oyster stew. Just delicious pairing. Well, you know the food is always going to be good at Cafe Maxx, and, you know, no one's ever heard of this Hilliard Bruce wine, but you can trust that if I'm going to be there eating with you, the wines are going to be equally as impressive. This is one of the most exciting new projects I have come across ever, and we're in on the ground floor here, the 2008, the very first release. Well, the 2010 Pinots were up next, and this was the shortest lineup of wines. We only had 3 on the table. We had the Sun and the Moon, and as John tells the story of how these were named, actually it's the opposite of what you would think. The one that vineyard that, well, they were harvesting it at night, I guess. That's why he called it the Moon Vineyard, because the moon was out at that time. Anyways, 2 different sites, and the wine's fairly similar in style. Both of them had this lovely, sexy, exotic spice in the bouquet, raspberry coulis, some pretty floral notes, Asian spices, really silky and sexy on the tongue. These are big Pinots, very voluminous and rich, but at the same time, they've got a load of spice and wonderful freshness and balance on the finish. Wow, both of these wines, most excellent. It's hard for me to pick a favorite. Actually, The Moon Vineyard, maybe just a touch richer, but both of them outstanding. Some of the best Pinot Noirs that I've had this year. The 2008 was an extra treat. You know, when you're coming to a Wine Watch event, you're going to get extra. This 2008 seemed the richest of all the wines. It was the first release of Pinot Noir. It had this lovely black raspberry, coulis, exotic spice, floral notes, a bit of a minty character to this wine, also really exotic, smooth and velvety on the tongue. We love the texture of Pinot Noir, and this one, like I said, just seemed a little bigger and jammier than the other two, and maybe still a bit closed. This 2008 vintage, it's got a couple years to go at least in your cellar. Very well balanced. The 2011, definitely a bit closed at first, and this is the Sky Vineyard Pinot Noir, the one that Paul Lotto said, you should bulk this out. It's not going to make good wine. You picked it too early. Well, still over 14% alcohol. This was the leanest of all these Pinots, which to say it's lean, still a big style of Pinot, really rich and fruity, but it did have a little more zest to the finish. This 2011, this bearing the highest score of any wine these guys have made so far. Got 95 points from Antonio Vallone, which is like a 100-point score for Pinot Noir because they don't get much higher than 95 points from the critics. But this wine had just a lovely array of spice and floral notes to it as well. And maybe my favorite wine on the table because of the fact it had a little more acidity and just seemed like it had a little more of everything else also to go along with it, but most excellent juice. And then the 2009 Sun Vineyard. This wine was a bit shy on the nose. Maybe it's because I had a different glass than all the other wines, but it opened up nicely. Raspberry, coulis, fruit, host of exotic spices, pretty floral notes coming out as this wine opened up, and that lovely signature smooth velvety texture. And these wines all big, and you definitely notice some spice at the end, but they did have that hallmark freshness that you need to keep big Pinot Noir balanced. All these wines at the top level of quality for Pinot. If you want to have one of the best and most exciting new projects coming out of California today, try these Hilliard Bruce wines. We've got them in 750s and Magnums. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.